Good morning. It's Freedom Friday. Good morning. Good morning. Oops. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I see I have one somebody. And I have my tea. Oh, sticky. I don't know why honey get everywhere. Just everywhere. Y'all say hello to me when you come on so I know who's here. Let me know who's here, who stopped by. Happy Favor Field Forgiveness Freedom Friday. That's all right. That is all right. That is all of that. And it is all of that. And it is, and it is, and it is. Whew. I have my tea, Michelle. I have my tea. And it is mint and peach. It's mint and peach today. Mint and peach with some lemon juice. And Michelle, I'm gonna text you after after I get through. Because I just want to share something. I just want to share something. Let me get a couple more people on here. I think, you know what, and I sent Kim Armstrong the link to class last night. And I guess I don't know what was going on. She said she was getting her hair done and she was gonna listen in. And I sent her the link and I got your message. And I'm a work through that after I get through here. But yeah, and she didn't ever come. So she need to come on now. She need to come on now. This is a good follow up to what we just got. No, what I'm going to call and tell you is why the smile. That's what's. I mean, this is gonna be good too. This is gonna be good too. But yes. Oh, let me close my door. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So this week we have been talking. Good morning, Kim Armstrong. You didn't make the class last night though. So what happened to that? We'll talk. Yeah, I got you. But I'm glad to have you here. I am so glad to have you here. So anyway, so this past week, um, I have been looking at um, how unforgiveness really impacts you, right? Because we talk about, and I've talked about on here before, talked about how it impacts your health and how it impacts your connection with God, and how come because unforgiveness, He commands us to forgive. So if you're walking and you're holding unforgiveness, then you're actually walking in sin. Oh, okay. It must have died after I sent you the link. Okay. Well, the replay is up. The replay has been sent to me, so I'll make sure I send it to y'all today. Um, and so, we have talked about all those things. However, we have not. I just started this whole uh, dive into what unforgiveness makes you think about you, right? And so And so this week, it's I told you it makes you see yourself as a victim instead of a victor. It takes you out of the space of being an overcomer. It takes you out of believing that you are an overcomer. It takes you out of the space of believing that you're an heir of God. It takes you out of the space of believing that you're more than a conqueror, right? And those things are all in the Bible. I know just from memory. We are more than conqueror through Him that loves us is Romans 8:37, I believe. And so it takes you out of believing that you are what God says you are. It puts you in a state of bitterness. It puts you in a state of resentment. It puts you in a state of revenge. It takes you. So this week has been more about the specific impacts that that unforgiveness has on you. Yesterday I talked about it lowers your self-worth. It makes you think maybe I deserved it. Maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I'm not valuable enough to protect. And I was talking about the girl that bullied me in high school. And she didn't hit me or nothing like that. It was just she called me that name. I've talked about this. That's been my story. That's been my example. It's not my story. It's been my example all week of how I'm recalling how I would plan my outfit at night and be like, if I wear this, then she won't blah blah. Or on the day that I would get my hair done and I come back, my hair be so fluffy and pretty, and I'd be like, she ain't gonna join me today because of and it had nothing to do with my hair, it had nothing to do with what I had on. But you see how it just kind of made me see my value through the lens of her calling me the name, right? And if I had operated in forgiveness and just not even thought about it, not let my feelings be impacted by it, not let my emotions be uh, noticeably affected. Because if you listen to me, if you take any of my classes, you know that my definition of forgiveness is to choose to stop allowing your emotions, your feelings, to be noticeably impacted or hold hostility and resentment against somebody who has hurt, wronged, or harmed you or insulted you, right? So excuse me. So it all has to do with how you handle your feelings. It's like when we say, somebody such and such made me mad. No, they didn't make you mad. They did something ignorant and you chose to be mad because you control your feelings. Right? So it's the choice to not let the event, the happening, the insult, the harm, the betrayal. It's the choice to not let your feelings run amok. It doesn't say don't feel. It doesn't mean don't feel. It means don't let what you feel run and rule and direct your actions. Because your actions, who is that girl? Ah, baby, that was when I was 15. That was some time ago. And so, and so, and so that's what I've talked about today. I mean, the past few days. Now, what I want to talk about today, let me get to my little notes. Let me get to my notes. Because y'all, I am also a confidence coach. I'm not just a forgiveness coach. I am a certified, right, Michelle. I am a certified confidence coach. Right. And so I enjoy giving people strategies that help them rebuild. No, Kim, Kim, you're a new creature. You're a new creature now. So come on. Come on. Gather yourself. Gather yourself. Um, so what what I'm going to talk about today is how unforgiveness can shift your internal narrative from confidence to self-doubt. Sometimes people would ask me, they would ask me when I was 15 and 16 and all of that, what happened? What happened to that confident little girl that, that was when I was in like, second grade or whatever. Because usually if somebody starts out in confidence, then they just keep on. And I used to say, I used to think I would say to them, I don't know, right? But in my insides, I would be like, because XYZ happened. I need for y'all to woosah. I need for y'all to woosah and take from this example. Not we finna go do that, but we see how this can impact your self narrative. I need for y'all to take away the other. I appreciate y'all though. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all's willingness to defend me. Oh man. When I tell y'all how that makes me feel, I appreciate that. So, but I need for y'all to take the other lesson. Okay? I need for y'all to take away that because of what she was saying, I was governing my activities because my feelings were hurt. She had done something that caused my feelings to be hurt. And so then I was then in turn governing what I did, what I wore, how I looked, how I showed up, how I showed up based on this one girl in this one class in a school that had 1,500 students. Do you see how letting your feelings do all the things? How letting your feelings take control. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Put down your G. Put down your gangster. But I want you to see how my feelings, how my hurt feelings, how my feelings of fear, how my feelings of self doubt, how my feelings of seeing myself, trying to see how she saw me so that I could change how I showed up, so that she would see me a different way, not realizing that she was not going to see me any other way than that. And so when you shift out of unforgiveness, see, unforgiveness really, really tears you up on the inside because unforgiveness tangles up in your emotions. Unforgiveness is tangled up in your emotions. You see my visual aid? Yes. And so unforgiveness in that case shifted my internal narrative from confidence to self-doubt. It said, when somebody hurts you, you know, and usually now this girl wasn't even that close to me, right? We weren't even friends, so to speak. We just happened to be in the same high school band. But because band just like choir, just like any other type of group of people, you tend to be more family like. You tend to look out for each other. You tend to, when you see another, because it's a community, right? You tend to say, oh, there's my band member, choir member, church member, club member, whatever, right? And so, in a way, she was behaving in a way that did not resemble how you should behave when you are in community with somebody. So The immediate questions that will rise up say, how did I miss the signs? Why didn't I know better? How could I trust them again? Good morning, Celeste. You know, and if you don't forgive the person and yourself, these questions start shaping the belief that, oh, I can't trust my own discernment. Then you start wondering, what did I do? Where did I mess up? Where did I go left? Where did I do the thing? And and the thing is, some people just might be shook by you being the great person that you are. Because again, my example revolves around somebody in high school. But how many people, put a three in the comments, how many people have run across a whole grown person that is shook? And by shook, I mean jealous, I mean intimidated, I mean all those things, that is shook by you just being and doing who you are and what you are. Just you flowing in your natural, however you flow. And so jealousy in my mind where I live by myself is the thought that jealousy is a very wasted emotion because you can spend so much time, people spend so much time uh operating from a jealous place when you could easily go somewhere and hone your own skill and be okay over there doing what you're doing, right? However, howsoever, jealousy, whatever, made her say, the things that she said to me. And as I said yesterday, because something else had happened and I had it buried at the time, so I hadn't worked through that yet. I could have been, and probably was showing up looking like a victim, looking like somebody who was easy to prey upon, right? So I started changing my behavior. I started, everything that I, tried to do was like, maybe I shouldn't try out for, drum major, flag line, whatever, because I don't want to be, out there in front doing something more than what I was already doing, whatever that was, to make her call me the name. Are y'all tracking with what I'm saying? So what happens when you hold on to the emotion of the situation is pain becomes your teacher instead of listening to God. So let's move to adulthood. Let's move to adulthood. So now I'm in a different situation. I'm in a different location. I'm in a different spot, and I'm still just doing. I'm doing all the things that I am gifted to do. So I was operating within the music ministry. I was operating as an officer in the church. I was operating in all the things that I had been trying to do, taught to do, saw done before me. So it is now my turn. I didn't want to cause more attention to myself, right? Because who else might jump in and start saying the things, right? And so now I'm an adult, and now I am functioning how I function. And there's this one person that's in my arena of people. And I actually admired that person because that person, and this was before I started speaking a whole lot in front of people, right? And so this person could just on the drop of a dime come up with a speech. She was a great orator. She was a great presenter. She from my view, she exuded class and sophistication and intelligence and all that. And I wasn't like, googly eyed fangirl, but I was like, she is really together. older than me, right? And come to find out, she too was shook by your girl. So now we grown. So now we grown. And I'm like, lady, are you really lying on me and such? Are you really doing this? Because I ain't did nothing to you, right? So once more and again, I'm like, okay. I fall into I fall into the whole pattern all over again, right? And so pain became my teacher instead of the Holy Spirit. Instead of moving forward with courage, I was hearing, okay, the people just gonna always hurt. They're always gonna hurt me, right? So then, um, so no, I think I did forgive her in my forgiveness season, but also during that time before, because that was before my forgiveness season. One of the things that happens to you when you walk in unforgiveness, because you're living in that pain place, you begin to distrust your ability to recognize good people and good opportunities. You start becoming overly guarded. You start becoming overly suspicious. You start withholding trust. You overanalyze everything. I wonder if it's overthink. You just start overthinking everything because you have put yourself in the position of protecting yourself and taking care of yourself. And so eventually, back to my point, your confidence breaks. Remember when I said people used to ask me what happened to the confident little girl that was, 4, 5, and 6, and then she just went away? And now people ask me, when I'm 15 and 16 and 17, what happened? What happened to that? What happened to that girl? And so internally, I used to think, well, y'all know my mama died when I was a little bitty thing, right? And the family structure changed and all of that. But really, what it was, you right, Lord. You sure right. The Lord reminded me. He said, "You were mad at me." The Lord reminded me. He just reminded me, just in this moment. He was like, "You were mad at me for taking your mama because your mama came, to be with me." But I call it taking my mama, right? But he said, I was mad. I was mad at God because my mama went to be with him. Who been mad at God before? I was 15 and I grew up. Now my daddy remarried and he remarried a wonderful woman. He did. And as an adult, listening to how people would talk about my birth mom and how my bonus mom, my mom, you know, the acts, they were very similar in their behaviors. They're very similar in their behaviors. And so, and so, I was blessed twice in the mother field, right? And so, but I couldn't see, oh, this is good. I couldn't see how good then, like then. I see it now. I couldn't see then how good my bonus mom was because I was so mad about why I didn't have my birth mom. Now later on in life, It kind of made a little sense why my birth mom left, because she was carrying a lot of pain that was unresolved. However, God was very meticulous in how he orchestrated everything on my behalf. And I missed a lot of it then because I was tangled up in being angry with God. And back then, you didn't really talk about being mad with God because, the saints thought that the Lord was a terrorist. And so you wasn't going to tell nobody. You wasn't going to tell nobody that you was angry with the Lord Almighty. And so I walked into, oh my God, I walked into adulthood, into complete adulthood. I'm talking about living on my own. I'm talking about got my own good government job. I'm talking about got stuff in my name. I'm talking about, I go home to visit my parents now because I have my own, I have done what my daddy has raised me to do. I got my own, I got my job, I got my this, I got my that. I have the whole, I have the whole productive citizen thing going on. And still mad at God. But now I've been carrying it so long, at that point, not at this point now, but at that point then, I have been carrying it so long that I didn't realize that being mad at God was just a part of me. It just had become a part of my existence. Being mad at God, seeing myself as a victim versus being a victor, not trusting the Holy Spirit, and baby, not trusting my own discernment, because why do people keep doing it? Why do people keep acting the way that they act towards me? But yet I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm still trying to figure out, why all the things, why the relationships don't work out well. You know, I'm still go back and watch the other ones. I'm still wearing navy blue, black, brown, and white, and monochromatic colors. Not realizing that no matter how much I try to mute myself, people are people, they're gonna act the way they act, and they still did the things that they did. And instead of, I did it because I'm in self-protect mode, because I'm taking care of me. Oh, that's great, Kim. And so I'm out here taking care of me. I'm out here taking care of me and not doing a good job. And I mean taking care of me emotionally and spiritually, and not trusting God to do it, and not trying to figure out how to have some discernment. And it was because I was carrying a lot of hurt, because I rehearsed the story, because I stayed in that space of, my story, my identity was seated in what had happened to me. So my confidence was shot, my discernment was shot. All of these spiritual gifts that I could have had, way before 50, I didn't have. I didn't have them. Because when you try to take care of yourself, I'm gonna wrap this up because I'm going on 30 minutes. Uh when you try to take care of yourself, God be up in heaven going, well, all right. You basically tie his hands. You tie his hands. When you're in unforgiveness, and when you're out in unforgiveness and all of the accompanying spirits, because things like this don't just come all by themselves. They come in packs, like hoodlums. So you got unforgiveness, you got resentment, you got anger, you got bitterness, you got all, at least them four. I did say four, F-O. You got at least those four things that you're walking around carrying. And it's very, very heavy. Right. And so once I entered into that season of God taking me through the forgiveness journey that He took me on, and the which was also accompanied by the healing journey that He took me on. Then, as that went on, then I learned that I do have very sharp discernment. I learned that I have a lot of skills, spiritual skills that I didn't realize that I had. I saw little evidences of it. Evidences is that a word? I saw evidence of it. It would peek out every now and then, and I wrote it off as a coincidence. Oh, wasn't that handy? Um, but I learned about all of the spiritual gifts that God had given me at the current age that I am now, within the last 3 to 5 years. When if I had operated more in forgiveness, and it wasn't that I didn't get taught about it, because I had pastors who did lessons on forgiveness, and as I'm thinking about it now, I can remember Holy Spirit telling me you need to forgive person X and person Y and person Z, and my answer was no. Mm-mm. For all the reasons that you all are holding unforgiveness, those are the reasons that I was holding unforgiveness, because they don't deserve it, because of all the things. And then I also subjected myself to all this broken confidence, stopping trusting God, um, stopping trusting my own discernment, stopping hearing from God, all the things. So when you do exercise forgiveness, you start yourself back on the path of being an overcomer, being more than a conqueror, knowing how close you are to God, knowing that you are an heir of God, knowing that you have access to all of His protection, access to all of His benefits, access to all of the things that show you that you are a whole, fearfully, wonderfully created being that has the very spirit of God, the very spirit of the all knowing, the all seeing, the everywhere at one time God. And you have access to all He knows and all He sees and everywhere He is and all He's got. So, the first thing that you should do, if you're at a point where you want to forgive, you should acknowledge that what happened did, in fact, hurt you, because it did. And then, even though you are experiencing that hurt, you then choose and you say, Person X, I choose to forgive you. I'm gonna call you. So, so the first part is you made the choice. Kim, you made the choice. You say, I choose to forgive you. You say, God, I want to forgive her, and I also want to be uh, healed of these hurt feelings. And so you have to surrender it to Him. You don't get over it yourself, Kim. You can't get yourself over your hurt feelings because you didn't give you your feelings. What I told my class last night was God took me through a Karen specific process to heal my feelings and to heal the hurt that happened because of the sexual abuse that happened when I was a young baby. And when I say young baby, I was 8. He took me through stages of forgiveness. He took me through, because I had to do the one I had to do one choice of saying, yeah, I forgive you. And I probably didn't really mean it. Okay, Kim, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Look, Kim, and as long as you were sitting there with that whole, I want to lay hands on her, on sight. As long as you stay there with that, God's hands are tied. So now you're gonna never get over it if you stay right there. Let me close this up. You are not going to, quote unquote, get over it if you stay right there. Now, during my forgiveness season, I had a lot of free reign to holler and scream and cry because it was during the pandemic. And Stephen was in AmeriCorps. And so he would be gone doing his assignment. He was he was gone doing his assignment. Like he was in town, but every day he would get up and go and basically go to work, right? And so I had free reign of the whole house that when God would put some, the Holy Spirit would tell me, okay, we're gonna work on forgiving this person, and I'd write the name down. And you know, I would tell him all the things that they did and how I felt. And so I was like talking out loud to God. And if I felt like crying, I would go ahead on and cry. I would go ahead on and scream or do whatever. And I didn't have to worry about Stephen coming in. First, I didn't have to worry about him hearing me because you'll shut yourself down, you know. Yes. And so and so I got to do all those things. And then once I got that out, then he started me on a Karen specific journey to heal my feelings. So I can't tell you how he'll do it, but I can tell you that Kim, like Shannon said, you can holler, scream, and cry while you cast it, but you got to trust him with it. And you can't believe that it's making you weak because, Kim, this is what I tell people. You say, if I forgive her, it's like she got away with it. She done got away with it anyway. Has she not? She's gotten away with it. She's living her life. She's doing whatever she's doing. And you, Kim, are mad and upset, and you might be having some health issues and things like that. And it's all because you got this stuff bottled up in you. Y'all remember our onion from that day? All these layers of things, right? Because you have the hurt from losing your mom, and then you have the hurt from trying to do all the things, and then thinking that, thinking that something was happening and then getting a different result about your auntie and the memorial money. And so you're stuck there, Kim. When you don't forgive, it leaves you stuck there in that spot telling that story. And maybe God has had the replacement money for you 5 times over. But because you mad and because on sight you want to put hands on her, he's up in heaven going, well, okay, I was going to give you your money back, but since you want to whoop her, since you want to whoop her, see, you have to be willing to, in order to get over it, you got to let it go. You have to let the need for revenge go. You have to stop letting your feelings run amok. So I learned something. I learned something. Kim, listen to me. I learned something this week. So I guess this is why I'm on here. I learned something this week that life was one kind of way before my mom died with family. And then after family structures changed, life was another kind of way. And for almost all of my adult life, I I was trying to recreate those relationships that I had beforehand, before the family structure changed. And I realized, like, really not too long ago, that the people that I wanted to recreate those relationships with, they don't have the capacity to do that. And so part of your thing might be that you miss that space. You miss the space where you had this relationship with her that was one kind of way, right? But something may have happened in her life for her to go from the auntie that you trusted, that you loved, that you had a relationship with, to the auntie that did something so horrible to you. Because what I had to realize is that when my family structure changed, something in the people that I used to have relationship with changed. And so we all grew up, and we were all managing tragedy. We were all managing trauma. And I thought that once the connection was rebuilt, once the family structure that was broken was restored, then it would be what it was. But it won't be. It won't be, because everybody manages trauma differently. Shannon, talking about pop quiz. And so Kim. So sometimes now I did a lesson on this before. I had to find it and send it to you. I did a lesson that said sometimes forgiveness is messy, and sometimes forgiveness requires you to grieve a relationship that you thought was going to be all right, but it's not. It's not going to be the same. So you see, Kim, you don't necessarily know. Probably talk to you offline, but you don't necessarily know what all she was dealing with. And so forgiveness has a lot of branches. Is the best way I can put it. Because when you forgive people, which again, forgiving is choosing not to let your emotions run amok with the things. When you forgive, you sometimes have to um, change the nature of the relationship that you have with the person, right? When you realize you have to change the nature of the relationship with the person, then you also have to grieve that change, because you want something that that person's not able to give. And so now you have to say, okay, she was this person then, and that person that she was then is not the person that she is now. And I can stop looking for that, because it's not, it's absent a hand of the Lord, it's not going to go back to that. And that sometimes is the painful part. That's the healing of the emotions that God has to do, that He has to show you. welcome, Michelle. You're welcome. Yeah. Yeah. So Kim, I'm gonna call you after I call Michelle. But you have to adjust yourself to know that, you know, this was what it was. It was what you needed at the time. But now the situation is different, and you have to move forward from that space. Okay. Y'all might have been on here for 45 minutes. I'm get look, get in the class. You're right. Yes, Kim, you are. You are. And you wanna get at her more so of why how could you do that? How could you raise me this way and then do me this way? I'm the same niece that you raised. How could you do this to me? You don't know what was going on with that woman. Okay, y'all. So now that I have been on this Freedom Friday for 45, 46 minutes, I am going to wish y'all a very, very happy Thanksgiving week. Y'all, you're not going to see me next week. Mm-mm. I'm not going to press myself to figure out which lessons to replay or rebroadcast. I am taking the whole week off. I'm calling you, Kim. I'm gonna call Michelle first because I told Michelle I was gonna call her. But I'm calling you. Charge your phone up here. Yes, I am going to rest. I am going to rest, and I'm going to rest. Finish some tasks that I've started, but I'm going to rest. I am. And I would like for y'all to get some rest too. And absolutely. Absolutely, Shannon. Pleasing God is first. Pleasing God is first. Y'all enjoy your week. Michelle, I'm calling you. Kim, I'm calling you. All right. Have a good Thanksgiving. I love y'all. And I will see y'all uh, in 7 days. Bye bye.